Telluride Time is made possible by the generous support of Two Skirts.
What's it like when you hear your calling? Will you remember where you were? Will you ignore it? Or will you listen? What if it calls you to go halfway around the world? To share your skills, to serve people you've never met, to do things you never thought you could. Peace Corps, life is calling. How far will you go?
One of the most liked guys and one of the most liked guys' sons in Telluride. This is, everyone knows the postal worker Jim Looney and his son Lance Looney. Lance is in town to celebrate a really special occasion. Lance has written a book, the I Like book, and Jim, at his own expense, is going to distribute these books to students at the Telluride Elementary School and the Telluride Intermediate High School. Hello, Looney men.
Good morning,
The Looney men. Have you ever been called that? The Looney guys?
The Looney guys, yeah.
Well, I just think it's a fantastic concept and such a wonderful gesture of altruism. You know, and everyone knows you, Jim, as being a selfless guy, nicest guy around. You look out for people. You care about people. You're really embedded in the community, and it shows every day. And obviously, with your family too, you've got that same kind of rapport. So, Lance, let's talk about what was your motivation for coming up with this idea and writing the book, and then we'll talk about Jim about his idea of distributing the books here in Telluride.
Yeah, exactly. When my wife and I were first married, we were living in Dallas, Texas, and we had started this counseling session where we read a bunch of books and we kind of summarized everything together, and it says, say something nice about the people that you love. So we both worked for an airline and we flew to different locations all the time, so we started leaving sticky notes in everybody's suitcases and in their cars or wherever. And after a while, we wanted to be able to capture those in a little bit better way instead of shoe boxes where we were stuffing them. So we got a journal and we started doing I like statements. Well, as the years had gone on, this is about 8 years ago, we decided that we wanted to start our own book. And with that, our two children came along and they each had received their own book. And we're like, we want something specific for this I like kind of thing that we were doing. And that's what started the whole kind of movement of the I like.
Started with Post-it notes,
exactly.
And now it's a book.
And now we've put it into a book, and we realize how impactful it is in families and in situations where people have young kids. And it's just, you know, relationships all over.
I'm sure you hear this a lot, you and your wife, who right now is in Hollywood at the Oscars.
Exactly, yeah.
I want to let our viewers know that Lance is here in Telluride, but his wife is in Hollywood for the Academy Awards because the book is being nominated for an Academy Award, or
it's in the gifting suite. It's
in the gifting
we just
suite
had gotten back
the
from the
Oscars.
Golden Globes, exactly, and then it was so well received at the Golden Globes that they said, "Will you please come back for the Oscars?"
That's huge.
So we're like, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
monumental. I mean,
I
talk
think
about
I was
a
the one
broader audience.
Exactly. I think I was the one that lucked out to come to Telluride, though.
So I'm sure you hear this a lot, and your wife hears a lot, and probably your dad too, that people take that for granted a lot. You're in a relationship, you have children, and you just take for granted that, you know, I love you, and you don't need to say it. But by writing it down and saying it, and then getting a positive response, that goes a lot further than just assuming.
Yeah, exactly. And so as an experienced I like person, what's happened is when you can do 20 or 30 pretty easily, but when you start in that later stages, you start looking for things actively. And that's really where the magic happens. You start focusing on the positive and less on the negative.
And so obviously this is a great thing to do with families, with children. You've got two sons who are running around the snow right over here.
Having a great time.
And you've been working, or you've been presenting this concept to them for how many years?
My oldest son is 5, and we started when he was an infant. And so even though he wasn't communicating back to us, we still did it every day, and it was amazing how he'd grown up with that, and the transition is just so well received by him.
Do you find that this concept fosters a mutual understanding of respect between children and parents, between husbands, wives, between partners, between boyfriend, girlfriend, between anyone who's involved in a relationship? And face it, everyone's involved in a relationship. You go to the bank and you cash a check, there's a relationship there. You go ski on the mountain and you get your ticket scanned, there's a relationship. And obviously some relationships are more profound than others, but how does this affect casual relationships?
That's a good point. I mean, I think what it is, when you get into the habit of saying nice things to people, and I think that my dad has been a great example of this for me as a mentor and role model in my life, of just saying something nice. It really means a lot to people. And so this is kind of a habit-forming book. This is a copy of the book. They come in 4 different colors. This is a purple one, and we also have a blue, green, and pink, and then the couples one. But you're exactly right. I think, again, getting back to what we focus on really becomes the reality. And the I Like book is an active way to just bring peace and harmony into the world. And
not take it for granted, but to actively every day say something nice, however small, however big, it's up to you.
Exactly. And the thing that I love about the book that we've created, anybody can do it. It doesn't matter where you're from, who you are. People love to hear nice things. And this is it's a pure, organic, natural way to build relationships.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, it's a simple building block for all relationships. So you came up with the idea, you and your wife and your family, and you're embodying it, and you're getting it out to larger audiences. Yep. Jim, I want to, you know, obviously it's great to have Lance here in town and to get to spend some time with your grandsons, but what was your motivation for bringing the book to Telluride and at your own cost to get this book, which is important to you, in the hands of people who are important to you here in our community?
Well, it boils down to a real simple thing. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was a Grand Marshal in the 4th of July parade.
I remember.
And I'll never forget it. We stopped at the courthouse, and the mayor was John Pryor at the time, came out and gave me the key to the city. And I was like, wow, you know, here's a farm boy from Iowa, and I'm getting the key to the city of Telluride. And I remember very well, when he went to leave, the mic was turned off, and he said to me, he said, Jim, we sure like having you in our town. And I was like blown away with it. I was like, wow. And the neat part was, then I turned back and we're heading down the street, and the crowd literally cheering, and they're clapping, they're yelling my name. And we get down towards the end of the parade, and I look over to the post office, see the flag waving, and I'm like, this is where my life is a daily experience. And then I turn to the left and look at maybe my favorite spot in the world, the top of Imogene Pass.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, in 4 or 5 weeks, I'm going to be running down this hill again, and people are going to be like cheering again and happy that I'm finishing a race that is one of the toughest races in America.
Makes you feel good, though, to have that.
And you're there, and Ashley, and I say this honestly because I don't know what, you know, Ashley's is saying about me, but he's talking about how he likes me, how he's one of the nicest guys. So I'm thinking, now I've got to give back to this community somehow, some way. And so that went on for 4 or 5 years, and nothing really came to my mind. And then I crashed on a mountain bike, and I ended up in, you know, airlifted over to Denver Health. And literally the cards and phone calls and gifts just kept pouring in. And I remember this really well. The nurse came in because the gal, the receptionist, had never seen anything like this in her life.
The volume of phone calls and cards.
And she was just like, she almost was to the point she'd answer the phone and say, his room number is so-and-so.
Jim Looney's secretary, how can I help you?
So she sent this gal in, and this is a true story. She came over and she said, who are you? And I said, ma'am, I'm just the postman of Telluride, that's all. And she said, wow. And when she's leaving the room, she turned and looked back, and she said, you know, that is one special town that you live in. And I said, now I've got to do something. I have got to say thanks, Telluride, for giving me, you know, such a wonderful reception. I mean, and so I worked and racked my brain, and then Lance came out with his book. And I never told him this. This is the first time I've ever going to tell him this. When he came with the book, it was set. It was set in stone for me.
That was
I knew
the thing.
what I was going to do because I've always enjoyed children. People that know me know that I love having the kids come in for balloons, M&Ms, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we got a hold of the school system, Mary Rubendahl and Trish Greenwood, and I told them what my idea was, and they were like, "Wow, Jim, I think we can get this all to work." So between those guys and Steve Smith, I don't want to leave him out, got with my son and organized how we could do it, because I didn't know how to do it. But from the help of the administration, it was great. Imagine 600 kids in this community getting something said about how they are liked. It's a no-brainer. When he came with the book, I knew what my gift to Telluride was going to be.
Well, people talk about things on the internet going viral. I think this book is going to go viral in this community. And then people from this community are going to have contact with relatives and friends in other communities. And they're going to get the book in their hands. And this thing really is going to grow like a network throughout, you know, maybe San Miguel County, maybe the Rocky Mountains, maybe the United States of America, maybe the world.
And another thing I really found on this book, because I've talked about it now since he came with it, people go back to their past, and they get out something that their mom had written, and they see her handwriting, and they're like blown away. Yeah,
sure.
It's a treasure to them. It's something that was a personal thing, or they saved their report cards or something. And I'm thinking, can you imagine going back in your life? My folks have both passed away. If I could go back now and say, oh, my mom on August 18th, my birthday, was so proud of me and liked me doing this or something on my birthday, it would be so special.
That's something you never forget and you carry forward with you. Well, I think it's a tremendous concept, and 600 books
600
in the hands of students here in the Telluride area. And not just Telluride, there's students who come here from other areas. Yeah. I think it's going to go viral. I think this is going to, you know, shoot tendrils out like a plant throughout not only our community, but lots of other communities. Well, Lance and Jim, thank you so much for what you do, you continue to do, for helping our community yet again. And
well, we thank you. We really, truly thank the community. It is a great place to have come to.
Well, great. And I'm sure your wife at the Oscars will be handing out books, and people are going to take those home, and it's going to get in the hands of some celebrities, and who knows.
Exactly. One last thing I want to say is, you know, I think sometimes people get in the trap of, I have to do this every day. And it's really not a focus of an everyday thing. What it is designed for is the child to have their own book. And in my situation, I have 2 children, so it's nice to be able to differentiate things between them. And so they each have their own book, and some days we get busy. We maybe miss a day here or there. So it's not the focus of an everyday thing as much as it is about the child has their own book that they can feel special.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, the I Like book, look for it in your children's hands soon.
Soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We thank you.
Thank you.